Welcome back, everyone. Today I just wanted to talk a little bit about why the politicians in Washington are not listening to their constituents and the American people. For one, I'd like to start out by saying that the United States of America is a republic. A people governed by the rule of law, and the government under the rule of law. So, but the reason why the politicians are not listening to their constituents is because they've convinced the American people, and it's taken many years to do this, but they've convinced the American people that we are a democracy, and we are not a democracy. But in a democracy, you have mob rule. That's what democracy is, mob rule. So, because it's mob rule, if they can convince themselves and they can convince the media that the majority of the people want this health care plan, then they're not going to follow the wishes of their constituents, because they're going to use the mantra, we are a democracy. Even though the majority of the American people do not want this, they're going to tell you that they do, because that's what all Marxists do. They'll lie and tell you the opposite of reality, because they're not living in reality. They're living in this pre-utopia that they believe that they can get to by just dragging us to it, like Bill Maher said. No, absolutely not. But that's the reason why they don't listen, because they are convincing everyone that this is a democracy. And in a democracy, mob rules. Those are the keys. Most totalitarian wannabes, the way that they get their power is through incrementalism. Okay, we are a republic, but to get to socialism or ultimately communism, because communism is a totalitarian style system. To get there, you have to do it incrementally. Otherwise, the only other way to do it is by force, and obviously you can't do that in the United States of America. So you have to use incrementalism. So what communism and totalitarian wannabes do is they'll tell you how wonderful socialism is. They'll tell you that you're a democracy. You must implement a democracy to ultimately end up in totalitarianism, because you need you need a populist movement, and only in democracy can you get a populist movement, because a republic, you're bound by laws. You're bound by the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. Do you understand that? So what we've got here is a group of people who are perpetrating a revolution, who have convinced the American people that we are a democracy, and it's the progressive movement. Okay, they're all about control. That's why Obama seems so disconnected from all of these issues, and he can't understand why. And he says, I'm not an ideologue, when he's the epitome of an ideologue. Everything he does is seen, everything he does and everything he sees is through ideology, his ideology that he has been taught. Okay? I just want to read a little bit from Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals. Basically, they can't tell you who they are. Okay, it's incrementalism. You know, they can't say, okay. You know, imagine if he came out and said, "Hey, listen, I want this to be a totalitarian regime. I want to be a dictator." Do you think anybody would let him? No, of course not. I mean, you can't go into a Jewish Orthodox community trying to organize eating a ham sandwich. It wouldn't work. And that's written right here in Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals. So you must go in live. He said that who was it? The Weather Underground, William Ayers, and I can't remember the other guy's name, Jones or something. They went around bombing everybody. They stood out in the middle of the street in the broad daylight and said, we are at war with our government. We don't agree with our government. And they were squashed. And Saul Alinsky doesn't recommend that path. He recommends that you lie. You go in there and tell them who they want you to be. And that's a capitalist, but he's really not. He's an anti-capitalist because everything he does is anti-capitalist. everything is to control capitalism. So that's communism. That's hyper-socialism. See, I'm not going to read this. When you go to, I don't have time. When you start in a republic, to get there, you must implement democracy. Okay? Democracy will lead to socialism, because you tell the people, oh, this is wonderful, look what we can do for you. And everybody goes, oh, yeah, wow, that's great. And they'll give you the power to change the laws, to go to socialism. Okay? And then once you're in socialism, it's just a slippery slope right down to totalitarianism, because you're giving the government more power with socialism. And the more power they have, the less freedoms you have. You understand? So we need to stop this socialist movement, this progressive movement, because it will lead to totalitarianism. It will lead to dictatorship, ultimately. It just takes a few more crises, and, we're there. God bless America.